But, you know, we're going ascending baseline. Quadrant up next. We're going to get Eli the Ninja and Mikowski on the cast for this one, as it's going to be an important match between ascending baseline and Quadrant.
Be right back.
The ball. Enemy team
all right, fun times in Arlington as Lore continues on in the open bracket, looking to make a run there as we switch gears to ascending baseline versus Quadrant. Eli, this one feels pretty consequential in the sense that hard to imagine one of these two teams getting fourth in their pools, but as we've talked about all day, anything's on the table.
Somebody's got to get fourth. That's just the reality of it. I mean, both these teams looking very good. Right now, Glory, we're checking in late on this round, but it's 100-0 in favor of Quadrant, and I'm looking at Glory with a 14-3 KD. Are you kidding me? This guy's absolutely on fire. Would have loved to see how he got those kills, but we'll see if ascending baseline has an answer in round 2, because they definitely fell flat in that first round.
And that's big for Quadrant. That's even bigger for Glory individually, because he's the comp. He's the man that's supposed to fill the big shoes of Legend. Now, coming across the pond from EU to NA, now on SSG, it's up to Glory to fill in that spot. A top 5 player, no less. Those are big shoes to fill, but you know what, Eli? If anybody can do it, it's Glory.
Clearly, I mean, he's putting on a clinic here. Also, Snipedrone, new to the roster this year at least, but he's been in the scene forever. I feel like, I mean, he used to be called the European Snipedrone because, I mean, their names are obviously similar, and honestly has a very similar play style to that of Snipedrone. Here, though, he's got the most ball time, almost hitting the 90-second mark. Right here, Spytomic, formerly known as MoNsTcR, gets a crucial double kill right now. Snipedrone wisely going to play the ball to mid-map. That's just going to make it a little bit harder for Ascending to get the ball into safety. It's going to make it so Quadrant spawners can perhaps contest it a bit easier as well. So great heads-up play from Snipedrone.
Early on in this series, Quadrant making their owner, Lando Norris, very proud as they race out to a 2-minute uncontested head start. 121 seconds before Ascending baseline get on the clock, but they've got a measly one, just a breadstick for them. So Quadrant didn't get a chance to see that opening round, but we're getting eyes on opening round to round 2, and it's looking like more of the same.
I mean, they finally have the ball to safety in what looks like their first opportunity for a setup since this game started. And we're well into round 2. HotShotGhost with the shotgun, though. I think this is one of the most important weapons on this map. He gets 1 kill, but gets shut down. That's going to trade hands, which means Quadrant have an easier time pushing in to C, but look at this. Spytomic trying to just make it more difficult for Quadrant to get in, but he was that last line of defense. Burton had to play the ball.
Despite 2 minutes in a row for Quadrant, Ascending baseline have bounced back in this one, down just 2 seconds, now vying for map control before they earn more ball time. They could do that by taking down Glory, but Glory with the Stalker in his hand has arguably one of the best weapons on the map, as he's playing this one really cheeky. Spots out the camo. It's, ironically enough, it's Glory who's looking like he has the camo, but he's not able to finish. Instead, 2 go down for Quadrant, and what looked like a really heads-up play from Glory flips on its head, but quickly afterwards, Ascending baseline go 3 down. So Quadrant able to steady the ship after a pretty tough-looking sequence, and it's via Snipedrone. It's previously talking about the European Snipedown doing just that with the overkill to bring Quadrant right back.
Didn't get to catch it from the observer POV, but when you see that in the kill feed, if you're on the side of Quadrant, definitely boosts everyone's morale just a little bit. Definitely increases their energy as they get control of the map once again. And look at this, they're playing both sides of the map, just applying maximum pressure. We got a killing frenzy from Snipedrone. This man got 4 kills in the first round, and now he's gone 10-0 in the second. This guy is absolutely on fire.
Yeah, you thought Glory was running away with the most slays in this lobby, but now it's Snipedrone who's got a 14 of his own. SLG right there with 14, but it's 84 seconds for Snipedrone that has him playing a really full game. Unfortunately, a little caster curse, it feels like, as he goes down there. Not seeing the same proficiency we'd seen previously with the accuracy and with those DMR shots. Is 3 more go down once again, though. So One person goes down, the other picks up the mantle. That's Glory now, who finds a triple of his own. As Ascending Baseline lose numbers edge, and this round is starting to get away from him as well. It was once just a 2-second game, but just as that occurs right after the overkill, tripled up, I should say, our Quadrant on the lead, 20-63.
In my opinion, this is the sign of a good team. If you have one player that pops off one round, but he's maybe not quite hitting that same stride in the second round, but somebody else is able to step up and do exactly the same as that other teammate had prior, that's a good sign for your team. That means you're working well together. There's not going to be many situations that all of you are, playing poorly or not getting the slays, because someone is always able to step up. Quadrant showing exactly that, and Snipedrone has not let up. Feels like every time we're on his screen, he's hitting it perfect.
Yeah, throughout the offseason, we questioned the viability of Camo and what the players were doing to see Camo so much easier, and that seems to have continued on to LAN as Camo has not made that much of an impact, gets easily spotted out, despite what looked like some sneaky plays from the Camo user. The trickle of the lines, the dissipation of the Camo occurs more often than not as that power up gets neutralized. 28-87 here as Quadrant have built an even bigger lead, and it looks like they're going to continue on. This could be the finishing touches of Game 1 as 4 more go down for Ascending Baseline, and Eli, I don't think they have the spawns. I don't think they have the timer space on the map. This should be it as Quadrant 2-1 will secure Game 1 with a standout, powerful performance, a 2-0 that sometimes we talk about didn't really look like a 2-0. That did.
It absolutely did. I think Quadrant might have even tripled the kills on top of Ascending Baseline right there. I mean, just absolutely murdering them in the slays department, which you're not going to be able to get much off all time if you're dead the entire time. A little bit surprising. We kind of are used to seeing a little bit more firepower on the side of Ascending Baseline, notably from Squallaye, who you and I got to work with quite a bit, and we're always impressed with his ability to just output insane amounts of damage with high accuracy. That game, he kind of got shut down, so I'm looking to see Squallaye maybe warm up a bit and lead his team to victory in this game too, if they're going to have a chance in this series.
Yeah, we know Squallaye is one of the best support players in the game, right? He's put up the stats to say as much. So I think going into Game 2, yeah, you definitely want to get a little bit more damage out of him. You want to get a few more assists as well. And if so, we could easily see this series get tied at 1-1. And I think that's especially important because if Squallaye plays his game, Breaking Shot is able to play his game, which is, you saw the killing frenzy for Quadrant. Breaking Shot on the other side is just as likely to score one, potentially even here in Game 2. Talk to me about Breaking Shot, Eli. He was a guy last year, in and out of pool play, in and out of open bracket. What are your expectations for this young up-and-coming star in Breaking Shot as we approach and get into Season 3?
I don't think we've seen Breaking Shot in his final form just yet. I mean, this guy, he undoubtedly has immense natural talent, but he's had kind of a tumultuous run just hopping on different teams. He feels like that kid that just hopping from foster home to foster home, hasn't found his family yet. You know what I mean? Like, hopefully this is his squad. They've been looking very good together online, but he just seems like one of those players that needs the right core, like comfort zone around him to really put on a display for us. Kind of like what we're seeing with Descendant on Complexity, similar storyline. He was on a ton of different rosters. Collect, another one of those people. So it's just a matter of time before he's on a squad and showing up at a tournament where he's, able to put on that kind of performance.
Before we step into Game 2, let's take a look back at Quadrant in the off-season. EU in the regionals, you had Foe come out, win the first 2, and then Quadrant, right before the tune-up, that major qualifier, wins and takes it off of Foe, but then going into the major qualifier, Foe take it right back. They get first place and arguably are the best team in EU now, which feels like such a far cry to say. We're so used to Quadrant looking dominant. Is it the loss of Legend? Or talk to me about Quadrant and where they're at right now, Eli.
I mean, they're still a very talented squad, but we cannot deny how big of a blow it is to lose a player like Legend. I mean, I feel like Legend is just simply that dude. I mean, obviously SSG picks him up for a reason, and now they're in contention to win every tournament as a result. So, I mean, it cannot be understated how much value Legend added to that squad, but the EU scene has also just been kind of mixing and matching so much. It was confusing. In one of the tournaments, I believe Chick had actually beat Foe with Quadrant, then leaves Quadrant to join Foe, and I don't know. Some of the team changes have seemed a little bit confusing from the outside looking in. I'm sure that Jimbo interview that we saw Onset and Bravo put out, shout out to those guys, doing amazing work with the narrative. You guys got to check that out if you haven't seen it already. But yeah, the EU scene kind of in a scramble right now. I think both these teams are very strong. It's kind of hard to say which team is exactly better than the other, though.
Yeah, if you guys get a chance, check out the narrative from Bravo and Onset, two of the best in Halo, giving you guys more behind-the-scenes access to the players we know and love as we kick off our game 2 here. Quadrant down by 3 off the start. It's ascending baseline, bouncing back in the TS, and most importantly, they've got the snipe and the snipe tower control in the hands of HotShotGhost, another one of those players, Eli, a lot like Squallaye, who had an incredible Season 1 and still has plenty left in the tank. Excited to see HotShotGhost gameplay here as he's back on the scene.
Yeah, Hotshot was one of those guys that I had my eye on throughout Season 1. Never really had a standout performance on LAN, but always seemed to be in the mix and had the ability. Now I think this is probably the best chance he's had yet. He's been coming back with a vengeance. Now 3-1 to start his team off hot here.
Oh!
Gets Snipedrone though with cluster luck. Don't see the medal on screen, but it should have. Double kill with 1 grenade. It's gonna rotate through the back of the tower with the plasma pistol. Like to see this usage here. But I'm curious to see, how does the teamwork look on the side of ascending baseline? They have to make this push work. I'm a little bit concerned about it. They don't have top middle presence. They're mostly just swinging out to one side, which, you know, it usually requires that you have a few more sight lines, some high ground advantage. That top middle angle is so important to make a push like that.
Now this game is flipped on its head. Once a 3-kill lead off the opening break for ascending baseline, it's now a 5-kill multi-possession lead for Quadrant as they're looking for more. SLG with the potential repulsor off the map. He does in fact get it. Wow, that was a little delayed as Quadrant build an even bigger lead, now up 10-17.
Yeah, the repulsor sent Squallaye back. Squallaye was able to jump, but had so much momentum that he continued to slide off. So tried to save himself, give himself the best chance. Repulsor too powerful though. Both teams kind of fighting for control of this tower side. It is a lot easier to control the map and also have access to the active camo if you control the tower. Right now, it's Quadrant that wins control, but for the most part, Burton last player alive, but I don't expect him to live much longer.
And in the blink of an eye, it's a 2-possession, 9-kill game now as Quadrant. They're racing away with it once again. That same pace that we saw in Game 1. They didn't start with it here in Game 2, but my God, have they picked up the pace ever since and have a massive lead. Now looking to double up on the competition. They do. 12-24, Quadrant are in the driver's seat.
Look at this. They're just flowing around one another. As soon as one of them's one shot, they just milk their life behind some type of cover. Teammate swoops in to help clean up the kill time and time again. That's how they've built such a massive lead. Ascending baseline almost chasing the one-shots a little bit too hard and being punished for it, but that's the game plan of Quadrant. They've just been putting them in difficult situations time and time again.
Talk about a difficult situation there. Now, Snipedrone does go down, but did you see him eyeing the dummies, and then the dummy spawn occurs, right? I mean, you talk about being in the right time, right place. Quadrant, that was something they were known for last year, Eli, was their map manipulation, their ability to control the spawns. As despite losing the core of their roster, it looks like they're able to retain that strategy and execute on it as they're still up by big. 19-29 here, a 10-kill lead now brought down to single digits. And if Burton can continue popping off with the snipe, he could bring ascending baseline right back in it. Double kill off the rip on the pillar. Looking to nade Snipedrone for a triple. Instead, takes him down to 1 HP. SLG at the back of Mud, and this is going to allow ascending baseline to get back in this match, you'd think.
Very well played by Burton. His entire life has been masterful, putting himself in perfect positions to hit these shots. Also just survived on the nest, hits 2 body shots, both get cleaned up by his teammates. All of a sudden, they're a bit back into this, now only down by 6 when previously down by 12.
Burton went on a hell of a run there, a killing spree plus 1 or 2 it looked like. Sitting at 8-8. He's brought his team right back in it, but it looks like Quadrant are getting back to their steeds. They're getting right back to what we saw previously from them. Outside of that moment from Burton, it's been all Quadrant in this series. A game and a half through, and they have looked dominant here to start as they look to go up 2-0 in this series, up by 8 in this particular game. And Glory right now just looking to bait a push through the top or bottom of mid.
Right now, Quadrant can afford to just trade out to the end. Lots of equipment to play for, though. We've got camo coming up in 10 seconds. Looks like equal trades going out for both teams. These trades are all in the favor of Quadrant. Now almost at the 40-kill mark, and getting a few kills right now should secure them to camo as well. Burton, last player to kind of contest it. Look at the QT usage as well. Sica getting back to safety, and Quadrant gets another camo.
Love the recognition there from Sica. Realizes he doesn't need to earn the slay, just needs to earn enough damage to allow his teammate to clean it up. He's able to QT to safety, and Quadrant are back in control. Up 10 once again into the 40s with a convincing lead, feeling comfortable and safe with it. As you see, back A spawns for ascending baseline, looking to push out through the garage door, but there's no vehicles in the garage. There's no vehicles to take out as they have no routes. And it looks like Quadrant have this picked out. They finally get a couple slays. They do have the numbers advantage for now. It's on them to take that space that they've earned to push out through garage door. But instead, it looks like they're going to regroup back through mid. I like this push. It looks like they do send one on the nest. So they have a flank potential and a strong push through mid as they take down 2 more, make it 3 more from Quadrant. A kill on Snipedrone would be a team wipe. But with numbers dwindling and opportunities dwindling as well, you don't know if ascending baseline have enough slays or time left in this one to bring it back. I don't think they do.
Ascending baseline playing so impressively off their back foot, all trapped at back B, make some great plays, but it was too little too late. They were already so far behind that I don't think they have the possibility to come back into this. They're now only down by 8, but when your opponent only needs 2 kills, it feels like the walls are closing in on ascending baseline. The QT monster, hello? He's gonna fall off the map, but not the time to do it. You gotta make sure you know exactly where that portal is before you click that button, because you don't want to lose a point when you're trying to gain points. Isn't that right, Hunter?
The shield's beeping, sounding like a dial tone on a phone that gets hung up but doesn't quite hit the click right. That's what it looked like there. As ascending baseline not clicking as a team of 4, but SLG clicking with the snipe, hits the headshot to secure the victory at game 2, 50-39.
Wow. Ascending baseline looked good at times, but it just never felt like they had full control. Felt like Quadrant really holding down that tower side. The few times that ascending baseline contested the tower, they just lost the fight. Quadrant looking very strong on that game type. A little bit surprised to see the first snipe from SLG at the end. I think of SLG as potentially the best sniper in Europe currently. This guy's insane with it. Recharge, though, just has a shock rifle, no S7 to be seen, but it's going to be incredibly important in this one. I have to give the edge to Quadrant. I mean, they obviously won these 2 games in fairly convincing fashion, but on top of that, they also are a very organized squad that are constantly controlling space, anchoring positions on the map, especially for a game type like King of the Hill.
And that was one of my questions going into this tournament. How much is Quadrant going to look like the Quadrant we saw last year that didn't set history, but broke history, placing top 3 on LAN? That was actually at HCS Arlington last year, the same venue where they made history for EU. And I think despite the fact that two members of Quadrant are no longer on the squad, they did look a lot like the Quadrant we saw last year with their map control and spawn manipulation as well. That was impressive to see. I think for me, Eli, this series so far is the old, you can't win a match at the start of a game, but you can lose it. And I think ascending baseline, they're just not giving themselves enough opportunity off the start to win and to ultimately win the game in the end. They're having their moments, like you said, but you can't go down 100-0 in that round 1 oddball. Even going down with 20-30 seconds in round 2, it just felt like the wheels were falling off a little bit, and they need to regroup going into this game 3. Recharge, King of the Hill.
You're exactly right. I mean, I can't think of a worse way to start a series than losing 100-0 in an oddball round. I mean, that just completely squashes any momentum that you could have possibly built. I mean, granted, they did look a lot better in round 2. They looked decent at times in Slayer, but they really need to supercharge that energy if they're going to come back into this one. Recharge, King of the Hill, in my opinion, a great game type when it comes to determining which team is more macro oriented. It's a very macro heavy game type. You cannot win simply by winning all your pivs. You've also got to think about the part of the map that your team is spawning, where you can spawn the other team, get immense amounts of time instead of just trickling time here and there after you get slays. So I think the team with the more macro fundamentals probably going to come out ahead on this one.
Recharge, King of the Hill, another one of those map game mode combinations that underwent a little bit of a meta facelift going into Season 3. Eli, talk to me about the changes to that initial opening hill in the mosh pit bottom mid where Camo is, now up on the perch over by the C platform ledge. That makes a big difference in the match. How so?
Oh man, it's just, previously when it was bottom mid, I think the biggest difference about this is you wanted to control C plat because it has the best entry point to that hill, right? But then the next hill also moved to long haul. So if you already had C control and perhaps glass control, then you were very likely to get the second hill as well. So it was very snowbally off the start. But now that it's in batteries, it's actually a bit better to have the A spawns for the first hill. And then you have to be able to transition to the opposite side of the map. So the order of the hills actually kind of force you to flip-flop your positioning on the map to give yourself advantageous positioning. And I think it just creates a better game type. I mean, you don't really want somebody to be gifted 2 hills in a row just because they got better spawns. This time you got to actually work for it.
Well, after each game 2, the teams get a chance to take a bathroom break. And I think for Ascending Baseline, just a strategy talk about maybe not so much what they're doing wrong. I don't think you want to necessarily harp and focus on the negatives, but talk about what Quadrant's doing right and how to counter that. What have you seen Quadrant do right so far, Eli, that has them up in this series 2-0 convincingly?
They're just not tunnel visioning in the way that Ascending Baseline is. Like, if they're in a fight and they have cover and a nearby teammate, they're just taking the cover. There's no point in challenging a 1v1 50-50 to the death if you can just hide for 2 seconds and make it a 100-0 chance that your opponent dies and you do not, right? So we saw that in almost every team fight throughout that live fire game where, yeah, Quadrant might lose a player or 2, but law of attrition, if you just lose less over time, you're going to have more at the end, right? So it's kind of the way that Quadrant won that game, and I kind of expect him to play more of the same. If you're on the side of Ascending Baseline, you've got to start just quote-unquote milking your life better. You got to be a harder kill, because right now it feels like Ascending Baseline are almost getting desperate in certain positioning and pushing too far beyond their means or trying to force a play to happen, whereas Quadrant are just kind of like letting the play breathe and playing it by ear.
You make a great point, and I think a specific example of that in this series where Quadrant are not necessarily playing for trades, but they're earning them in a sense and able to mitigate the damage we see from Ascending Baseline was that 8-kill spree from Burton. And you take a glance at the scoreboard, it's still a 10-kill game, even after Burton popped off with a snipe. So Quadrant doing a great job to neutralize the opposition. And look at this! Before we even get a chance to take a deep breath, a short breath, Quadrant are already up 1-0. What? How did that happen so quickly?
I don't know. We're coming in a little bit late to the match here, but all good. We've got the shock rifle in hands of SLG. I was just talking about this man with the sniper rifle and what he can do. He's showing that he can do the same, not just with the S7, but also with the shock rifle. But clearly, Quadrant had control of that A side, get control of that hill, and we saw them attempt to transition to this side. Look at them just patiently playing through the process. They know there's a couple members back silo here. Not really forcing it, but honestly, Ascending Baseline playing great defense. They should be able to get a fair amount of hill time here if they can stay patient.
Quadrant, they got a new logo. That's looking good. They got a new roster. They're looking good as well as they look to earn a sweep here in this best of 5 against Ascending Baseline. A 2 versus 3 matchup for now, and these are the really crucial ones in that these two teams are so close in seeding and points. But it comes down to who earns it on land, as so far it's been Quadrant, all Quadrant, because they have a 1-0 lead in this match. 3 down for Ascending Baseline is going to allow them to get right back in this hill with full control.
MoNsTcR needed to win that 1v1. Shot's looking a little shaky. Talked about him a bit. Maybe being a bit nervous on land. Those nerves gotta subside here. You gotta just lock in. You gotta believe in your own ability. He certainly has immense natural talent. We've seen it time and time again. But you gotta ice up in these fights that matter. Hit some nice shots on Glory there. Glory trying to escape to safety, but Spitomic now, formerly known as MoNsTcR, getting the shots there. But you have to think, after Ascending Baseline won the previous play, they should have got more hill time, really only earned about 12 seconds on the hill, and all of a sudden Quadrant, after 1 break, are close to capping this.
Yeah, it felt like the quarter or so that Ascending Baseline were gifted to them by Quadrant in a sense that we'll give you that 25% so long as we're able to play for things like shock rifle, the flank map control on the backside of C here, which is exactly what Quadrant had. And now it's actually Ascending Baseline sort of flipping exactly what I said Quadrant did to get up on this hill, potentially 2-0, but no, 4 going down for Quadrant, and that is so massive, Eli, because I was just about to say it. This feels like not necessarily a next hill win scenario, but Ascending Baseline cannot go down 2-0. They need to tie it right here. And it looks like they might just, if not for SLG and the crew pushing through. But two go down on each side, and it looks like Quadrant with Glory and the shot are going to steal it. They are going to go up 2-0. What a play there from Quadrant, as just it looked like Ascending Baseline was going to tie it. Talk about a gut punch.
Ascending Baseline looked like they were comfortable. It's almost like they felt like, oh yeah, we definitely got this. Oh, they're probably just rotating to A, right? Haven't seen them in a while. In comes a flying Sica with a grapple and just kills two guys out of nowhere. No, you thought you had it. You thought. But Quadrant come in with the steal at the last second, and that's got to be a blow to the confidence. Not only that, but Glory lurking with camo shock rifle, shutting down top A. Such an important position for this hill, denying access to this side of the map. It's a 4 dead for Ascending Baseline. You kind of feel like the walls are closing in at this point if you're on that side, but Ascending Baseline got to be patient. They can play through this. They're going to try to send 2 players through the tower and 2 at the long haul. This is a great looking push. Got to secure some slays though.
Just goes to show the level of confidence Glory has in his shot, taking possession of the hill and the shock rifle to earn more slays, more objective time, and that's impressive to note. Glory a part of scoring both hills so far for Quadrant, and it's not like he's lacking in his usual slay department as he continues on with another headshot slay. 2-0 lead, looking like a 3-0 lead now for Quadrant. Eli, we were just talking about how it's tied.
That's unbelievable, man. That last second play makes such a massive difference, just completely blows the door off for Ascending Baseline. These guys have to figure out what they're going to do to get back into this. Right now, Quadrant also already in the next hill, but there's heavy presence of Ascending Baseline on the silo. If they can control that side, they can play the long game and ultimately get control of this hill.
I love this setup here from Glory, and it just goes to show you don't need to be in close proximity to your teammates and to the objective to play the objective, as he has a good cross shot, but the time is now to push up with that grapple. It gets a little bit of added extra movement on the map towards the stacks, but he goes down. 3 go down, in fact, for Quadrant, as Ascending Baseline have the numbers edge, have control of this hill, and I don't know, Eli, it's right there on the edge of having the possibility with 2.5 minutes left. They really need to play efficient Halo, not step out of the hill, because now the regulation clock is also a factor.
You're exactly right. This is one of the harder maps to come back on, even if Ascending Baseline could secure this. By the way, they're 4 dead right now, so they're going to have to break into the hill, hold it for long enough to cap without burning enough time off the clock, to then cap 2 more just to tie it, to give himself a chance in the sudden death regulation. Right now, if you're Quadrant, you could really just mostly slay out. I mean, we've seen them have the better of Ascending Baseline just in the slays department throughout the rest of the series. This one's feeling almost insurmountable.
I think this speaks to now the confidence Quadrant has to defeat Ascending Baseline, and that you're right, if they wanted to, they could dwindle away the life force and that clock, but instead they're going for the 4-0 sweep. They're going for the 3-0 sweep in this series, and it looks like they have it. They do. Quadrant look absolutely dominant, taking down Ascending Baseline with the sweep.
Wow. Quadrant coming out strong. Now, they are the higher seed, so they're expected to win, but perhaps not in as emphatic fashion as they did. The Ascending Baseline roster, keep in mind, finished top 8 in the qualifier, did they not?
They did.
So they certainly a solid team to look out for later in the tournament, but they're going to have to get their stuff together if they're going to compete in against these other teams. I mean, right now, it's looking like they might have trouble against the open bracket team that makes it out. So they've got to figure it out.
And that's, again, Eli, why these matchups are so crucial between the 2 and the 3 seed. You got to win this one because of the fact that we expect those open bracket teams to be a little bit more competitive. We expect pool play even to be a little bit more competitive this year without the 2 freebie spots that were previously awarded to Mexico and ANZ. Now, I still have Mexico make it out of the open bracket. I actually predict potentially 2 teams making it out of the open bracket from Mexico. Might be a little faded, some might say, but I think we saw a lot from the MX region in the offseason, and during the offseason, it was Foe who looked better than Quadrant, but this is why you play the game on land. That's right, LAND. Who's gonna in EU? Who do you think is the better team, Eli? Quadrant or Foe? It's hard to say, right? It's gonna come down to this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, whoever places better, I guess, gets the chip for now, but who's to say the other one doesn't outplace the other at the next tournament? I mean, I think these 2 teams are very evenly matched, even in the tournament that Foe won to have the upper hand in the seeding points, whatever, for this tournament. It was a best of 5, and it went to game 5. You know, it could have gone either way.